Good morning.
Good morning.
We do have some new directories out, so if you haven't gotten one, I think it's Emily that put it together. She did a nice job. Give her a hand. Now, please do look at your entry to make sure they're correct. And if it's not Emily's fault. It's because. I'll take the blame. How about that? Okay? Well, how did everybody do this week? Ladies, did your husbands do good for Valentine's? Huh? That's a kind of weak applause. What about the rest of you? Man, are you not doing your job? I have to show you this because this is for my wife. So I did my part. I worked at Huff House on Monday, and so I didn't get around to making the arrangement for my wife. And Tuesday I was busy, so Wednesday I was able to get something. And by the time I took it to the ladies' Bible study, she was already gone, so I had to go look for her. But I did find her. She took it home and put it on this place where she thought the cats wouldn't get to it. And guess what? The cats got to it. Or was it the cat?
Yeah.
Or was it just you?
It was Twinkle.
It was Twinkle. Spilled water all over.
Yeah.
So that's why you get to enjoy it. I read this in an email that I got. I thought it was pretty funny because I can kind of relate to it. It's like, should I really join Facebook? And this is priceless. How many of you get on the computer and have email addresses? Raise your hand. Come on, everybody who has an email address. Okay. Now, how many of those are on Facebook? Wow. I am not. I think if I get on Facebook, I won't have time to do anything else. So anyways, I can relate to this. When I bought my BlackBerry, I thought about the 30-year business I ran with 1,800 employees, all without a cell phone that plays music, takes videos, pictures, and communicates with Facebook and Twitter. I signed up under duress for Twitter and Facebook. So my 7 kids, their spouses, 13 grandkids, and 2 great-grandkids communicate with me in the modern way. I figured I could handle something as simple as Twitter with only 140 characters of space. That was before one of my grandkids hooked me up to Twitter, TweetTree, T-World, Twitter Fun, Tweety, and Twitterific, TweetDeck, TweetPics, and something that sends every message to my cell phone, and every other program within the texting world. Now, I've never heard of these other ones. Is there really those things going on? These other tweets? But anyways, I don't know. I guess I'm pretty ignorant about this texting world. My phone was beeping every 3 minutes with the details of everything except the bowel movements of the entire next generation. I am not ready to live like this. I keep my cell phone in the garage in my golf bag. The kids bought me a GPS for my last birthday because they say I get lost every now and then going over to the grocery store or to the library. I keep that in a box under my tool bench with the Bluetooth, it's red, phone I'm supposed to use when I drive. I wore it once and was standing in line at Barnes & Noble talking to my wife, and everyone in the nearest 50 yards was glaring at me. I had to take my hearing aid out to use it, and I got a little loud. I mean, the GPS looked pretty smart on my dashboard, but the lady inside the gadget was the most annoying, rudest person I have run into a long time. Every 10 minutes she would sarcastically say, "Recalculating." You would think that she could be nicer. It was like she could barely tolerate me. She would let go with a deep sigh, and then tell me to make a U-turn at the next light. Then if I made a right turn instead, well, it was not a good relationship. And when I got really lost now, I called my wife and tell her the name of the cross street. And while she's starting to develop the same tone as Gypsy, the GPS lady, at least she loves me. To be perfectly frank, I am still trying to learn how to use the cordless phone in our house. We've had them for 4 years, but I still haven't figured out how I can lose 3 phones all at once and have run around digging under the chair cushions and checking bathrooms and the dirty laundry baskets when the phone rings. Now, anybody do that? Huh? The world is just getting too complex for me. They even mess me up every time I go to the grocery store. You would think that they could settle on something themselves, but this sudden paper or plastic every time I check out just knocks me for a loop. I bought some of those cloth reusable bags to avoid looking confused, but I never remembered to take them back in with me. And now I toss it back to them when they ask me, paper or plastic? I just say, it doesn't matter to me, I am bisexual. Then it's their turn to stare at me with a blank look. And it was recently I asked if I tweet, and I said no, but I do tweet a lot. Yeah, we live in a different world, don't we? Those of us who remember those days when there was no such thing as cell phones. Life was so much better back then, I think. And now it seems like even young kids have those cell phones. And I think sometimes it's sad because, you know, you're sitting at a table with somebody and I know some people, you've got to do your texting, but I think we've kind of gotten out of touch with personal communication and personal one-on-one attention with one another when we feel like, you know, that phone just keeps on buzzing if we have it on silent or vibrate, and we just kind of completely lose track with what we were talking to the other person about. I'm at fault, so you know, I'm not pointing fingers, but we just kind of live in a different society. I think sometimes we need to just ignore that thing, and I do. I try to do that. And during lunch, you know, I'm with the seniors over there at the senior center. Roy and Ramona knows that sometimes that phone rings like crazy. I mean, not rings, but vibrates like crazy during my lunch break. And I just sometimes have to just say, you know, I'm not going to even look at it, because if I look at it, it's going to be somebody important. And I have to take this call. And you probably see a lot of movies that way where maybe it's a husband and wife situation, and they're having this discussion, and he goes, I've got to take this call. Well, hopefully we can manage our electronics efficiently, or try to at least. We've been reading through Genesis, and I titled this sermon, Family Feud, because of the situation that was going on with Jacob and his wives. And Genesis 29 says, when the Lord saw that Leah was not loved, he enabled her to conceive, but Rachel remained childless. And Leah became pregnant and gave birth to a son. She named him Reuben. For she said, it is because the Lord has seen my misery, surely my husband will love me now. She conceived again, and when she gave birth to a son, she said, because the Lord heard that I am not loved, he gave me this one too. So she named him Simeon. My wife's been watching Big Love, which is about a Mormon family. And I kind of see a lot of things that goes on with this Mormon family that believes in polygamy, of what was going on in this relationship with Jacob and his wives. And last week we talked about how, you know, Jacob, when he left home, because his dad wanted him to marry a godly woman, and he went on to this place, and he saw that this woman that was a shepherdess came, and like I said, man, she was hot, and she was beautiful. And so he says, this is the one I want, and he loved her so much that he worked 7 years for her and got somebody else. I mean, again, I can't think of a guy who worked 7 years for a woman. And then, guess what? He ends up with this other woman in the morning. And then he had to work another 7 years. Well, he got the wife first, but he had to work another 7 years. So 14 years he had to work for Rachel, the one that he really loved. And so there's this contention going on with Leah and Rachel. Leah, being the one that he married first, you know, felt like she had the right to be the most important wife. And of course, Rachel's thinking, well, I'm the one that he loved, and we had this thing going on before you married him. So you got him by deceit, actually, even though our culture says that you're the first one that needs to be married. So there's this contention going on. You know, and I thought about all this stuff, and I go, why in the world would God allow polygamy back then? I mean, today it's kind of looked down upon, right? In our society, in our culture, but back then it was something that was kind of accepted. So is this something that was God's will, that there was plural marriages? I don't think so. And as I read the different people that talked about it, I realized that, yeah, God didn't want a husband to have many wives. But because of stubbornness of man, there's the thing is that God allows a lot of things to go on with us that is not in our best interest, but He allows that to happen. I mean, is there anybody without sin? Does God love you? Well, He still loves you in spite of your sin. And He allows you to get involved in sinful behavior, but He doesn't like it. But you know what? He still can work through you and use you to be a powerful man or woman of God. In verse 34, again she conceived. I wonder what they were doing all this time. And when she gave birth to a son, she said, now at last my husband will come attached to me because I have borne him 3 sons. So he was named Levi. Now remember, in that culture, bearing children was really important. Because it was sort of like a status symbol. And you can see this contention going on between Rachel and Leah. You know, here, Rachel, the one that Jacob really thought was his lover, and Leah, who he got by default. And here, Leah's the one that's having the kids. And so Leah's looking at it, and she's getting kind of jealous. Now, alas, my husband will be attached to me. Is that what brings attachment or love in a relationship? So he was named Levi, and she conceived again. And when she gave birth to a son, she said, this time I will praise the Lord. So he named him Judah. Now, you remember that name Judah? Judah was the one that was the father, or the great-great-great-great-great-grandfather of Jesus. Then she started having children. Chapter 30. When Rachel saw that she was not bearing Jacob any children, she became jealous of her sister. So she said to Jacob, give me children or I'll die. And Jacob became angry with her and said, am I in the place of God who has kept you from having children? Then she said, here's Bilhah, my servant. Sleep with her so she can bear children for me, and I too can build a family through her. Now I can remember back, you know, when Sarah was in that same position. Remember Sarah? Adam's wife? She's what, 90-something years old, and she's not having any children, and she knows that Abraham was promised that he would have many, many generations, that his descendants would be like the sands on the seashore and the stars in the sky. And yet they had no children. So she had to kind of, well, I'm going to help God. How many times we tend to do that? We don't get our way. We know God's promised something, but we say, well, I'm going to help God a little bit. So here, Abraham, take my servant and have a child with my servant. Well, here's another generation, and that's happening the same thing. Go sleep with her so she can bear children for me, so that I too can build a family through her. She gave him her servant Bilhah as a wife, and Jacob slept with her. Now, I don't know about this, but Jacob seems like he's having all